So welcome back everybody to Lawyers Happy Hour. It's so nice to see some new faces and some regulars coming back for our November 2024 meeting. Again, I'm Day and Nate with the Success Partner. We are sponsor and organizer of this event. And without further ado, I know we're all excited to learn more about LinkedIn and how to strategize. So I'm delighted to introduce my other fellow attorney and women-owned law member, Erin Anderson, and I'm just going to let her take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to do a shared screen. Do you mind just enabling that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Be a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And my intro's in there, so we can just get started. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me move. Okay, awesome. I'm going to put this over here on the bottom. Great. Okay, so Erin Anderson, I work with attorneys on several things, but primarily being LinkedIn culture and hiring. So I hire for small legal firms, not big law, but smaller ones. And then I go in and teach LinkedIn strategy or I rebrand for them. So thinking about 2024, what is it that we need to do moving forward that is going to enhance our LinkedIn strategy? It is not something that you have to pay for, right? There's not constant ads. It's not a constant cost. Are there things that can be done? Absolutely, but it's not necessary. The number one question that I always get, I'm going to answer now because I probably will, is do I need a LinkedIn premium account? And you absolutely do not. During this presentation, I wouldn't necessarily say make changes now. You could take notes. I would tell you to have LinkedIn up because I will as well, in case there's any questions. I can definitely screen share my own profile and answer those for you. But it's just a good reference point to see when I'm talking about different items, what sections of the profile that we are reviewing. So we're gonna get started elevating your presence and thought leadership on LinkedIn. So not just having an optimized profile, but actually engaging on LinkedIn in a way that is going to get you seen as a thought leader, but also create leads for your business. Right. My areas of expertise. So LinkedIn strategy, I do a lot of profile branding. I call it LinkedIn SEO. It's how are we getting you higher up in searches? I always say, for example, in Florida, I'm always at the top of search results over people that live right next to other people in those towns in Florida. So that's the goal, especially if you are a service now that can work virtually. Content and engagement training, right? So thinking about, are we creating posts, but are we also engaging in a way in things such as collaborative articles, which is a new feature that LinkedIn has put out. I also strategize with LinkedIn. So I'm not an employee of LinkedIn, but I have been invited to a select group of members, invited to headquarters on how to strategize collaborative articles moving forward. And I do hiring management. My biggest differentiator, I guess you could say, from any other recruiter is that I'm flat rate. So getting started, these are a few things that I want you to think about. And the first thing, does your LinkedIn profile feel authentically like you? Do you land there and feel like it is a good representation? I was just at a small law symposium at the New York City Bar Association earlier today, and we were going around using our QR code in the LinkedIn app. And some people were telling me, well, here's my LinkedIn, but this isn't really a good representation. Red flag that you need some optimization. So thinking about, is this really an equivalent of what you would see on your website? I want your LinkedIn profile to literally be the substitute if your website went down tomorrow. I do not even have a website. I have taken it down for the time being because how great LinkedIn optimize for my business and then how I get clients every single time I post. Would I tell you to take your website down? Absolutely not. I've taken mine down temporarily until I redo it. But LinkedIn is serving as that piece right now temporarily. So I want you to think about it as really the equivalent. It's just a different format and it's free. The second thing, if I was your ideal client, would that profile stop me and not cause me to move on? It's just like when we land on a website and we've clicked there from Google and we land there and it's just not intriguing. And what do? We click the back button and we click on somebody else's website. I don't want people landing on your profile and that happening. We want to keep them there and we want to get them to scroll. Does it give you social proof? Is there credibility? Do you have logos of places that you've been featured? Are all of your credentials there? It's the only digital place where we can see everything at once with proof, right? It connects us to institutions, places we've worked. People are leaving recommendations with their own profile on our profiles. That's very different than a website where we can basically say anything, or a piece of paper such as a resume. We're actually connecting to those companies and institutions. And lastly, if your website was to go down, could your profile serve as your website? Going back to what I was saying before, do you feel confident? If not, then this is the time to get optimized before the new year, especially with, I listened to so many things at the Law Symposium today on cyber threats. So we want to make sure that you're covered in every area. Okay, so why branding matters in the first place. First is LinkedIn and Google SEO. They actually work together. So going back to the website, if you're extremely optimized on LinkedIn, you will be pushed higher, not just in a LinkedIn search for what it is that you do, but also on Google when people are searching for what it is that you do. The second thing we just touched on earlier a little bit is that it is your digital presence. Anytime somebody searches your name, your company, what it is that you do, this is one of the first things that they're seeing. A call to action, right? If we land on your website, is there a pop-up telling us to join an email list, telling us to book a consultation? Where are we directing traffic? This is one of those things that I see a lot of people miss out. Even those that have 5 million followers on LinkedIn are constant content creators. They create all this great material and they have so much traffic that is driven to their profile, and there's simply no call to action. There's no direction, no telling me actually what it is that they want me to do, but yet they've brought me to that place. So I want you to think of that as a theme tonight as, okay, great. What am I trying to do with my LinkedIn audience? Your website audience might be a little different. Maybe you want people to follow you on LinkedIn as a thought leader. I worked with an attorney this past year that gets a lot of business from Google on her website. She has a lot of networking, but she wanted to specifically use LinkedIn for speaking. And so we've angled that as the resource to get her leads directly there so they're not misled by her website. It's the path from content engagement back to your profile, right? If we're creating content, people resonate, what are they likely to do? They're going to go back to your profile. And if that call to action is not direct, or I can't find your email, or there's too many call to actions and now I don't know what to do first, we're going to lose that person and they're going to go somewhere else. Last thing, we talked about this before, it's your second website. I want you to think of it not just as clients, but also for networking purposes, right? Think about all the people I met today when I landed on their LinkedIn profile. Oh, that's not a really good representation. But yet that is the first thing I'm seeing before I go home tonight and email them or go on their website. So it's first impressions. So 3 key strategies, and I've broken this down. So you're going to see 6 here, but it's broken down really into 3 categories because all of these relate. The first is thought leadership and reputation. So when we're creating content, that is what you are getting known for on the platform. And people decide to now follow, not just connect, if they resonate and want more value. Then there's client leads and sales, which obviously go hand in hand with referral partners. And network and hiring. So if we are hiring on the platform, how are we using our network to make sure that we are getting more candidates? All right. So we are going to go through a few items here, what I call the 6 profile branding musts. We slightly touched on call to action, but I want you to think of the banner that we're going to go through in a little while. So I'm going to give you some images there. The second thing that you are absolutely going to need after tonight is headline keywords. We're going to do a deeper dive there. The third thing is creative mode and a call to action link. If you do not know what creative mode is yet, it is going to be under that top box, and it's going to allow you the opportunity to turn it on tonight. And I can show you a visual of that. And thinking of tonight, what are you going to make your call to action? Where are you driving traffic? The fourth thing you absolutely need to have after tonight is skills, and all 50 skills, not just 27, which I see all the time, or 30 or 49. We need to optimize all 50. That would be like if you were paying $500 for ad spend a month and only use 300, right? It's a free resource. Let's optimize all 50. The last being recommendations, starting to think, who am I going to ask after tonight on, what is it that I want to ask from a colleague standpoint, maybe a client, maybe a manager. How are we going to utilize our network to build our recommendations? Okay, so first things first is that banner that we saw earlier. It is the most underutilized area. About 90% of those that I check their profile do not have an image behind their profile picture. So that is that gray or blue area. Sometimes you'll see a city skyline. Sometimes you will see a quote, right? Something not always relevant. What I see most is the city skyline, and why that doesn't work is because it makes me think that you only work in that area specifically. And we don't want to limit ourselves, especially in a virtual environment. So I want you to think about for Thanksgiving, if you are going on a road trip, right? And you're going down 95 and there are several banners to get off on an exit. We never take the one that only has, say, for example, one gas station. It doesn't tell us how far it is. It's not giving us any direction. It's not telling us what to do and what we're going to receive. It's very similar on LinkedIn. Your banner should tell me what it is that you do and what I'm going to get by contacting you, how to contact you, and what direction that you want me to go into. So a few key items here. What is available? A clear direction and outcome, and a relatable and approachable. We want to make sure that people want to reach out to you. So thinking about profile pictures as well, a lot of the times when people get photo shoots for their business, photographers will suggest that they should, for example, like lean on their arm or look a little bit less assertive. Especially in this industry, we want to make sure that you are facing forward, that you look powerful and confident. So at the same time, we want people to reach out to us on LinkedIn. It's not just a contact form. We're not sending them to an area that doesn't feel like it's us. It is our profile. And so I want you to have a profile that also looks approachable. Whether that be a photo on your banner, whether it be your profile photo, make sure that you feel like somebody would want to click on the message button to speak further to you. Okay, we're going to dive a little bit more into headlines. So this is the description underneath your name. Many people, especially lawyers that own their own firms, I'll see something along the lines of founder. Or if you're an employee of a company, it might say attorney at X company. The issue with this is it's not really searchable on LinkedIn. I want you to instead start brainstorming. What is your area of expertise? If you're an attorney here, then you definitely have a specialization. B, think of that as the giant web. And then underneath each area, what are the specific areas of expertise underneath that main area? It could be the demographic that you get areas of expertise. If you were your ideal client and they were going on Google to find exactly what it is that you do, so your service or product, what would they be typing into Google? I want you to make a list. The other thing that you can start to do is every time somebody books a consultation or reaches out, asking them what are the keywords they typed in Google or LinkedIn to find what it is that you are doing. A lot of the times people struggle a little bit with this area, and it's best to ask those that you have served or a colleague, for example, that may think of something that you may not. Being really specific. So I see a lot of people use really broad terms in a headline. Attorney. Well, there's so many different types of law. We don't want getting people directed to your profile for the wrong reason. Otherwise, you're going to be filtering through so many messages and it's going to be difficult for us to maintain. So getting really, really specific in this area. The last thing about headlines is whatever your main area is adding a title to it. Your LinkedIn is not your website and it's not your company page. It is your specific personal profile. And so I want you to think of when we're breaking down those areas of expertise, adding titles after it. So examples are if we have like intellectual property attorney, great. Then breaking it down maybe by like patent specialist or expert or strategist, different titles after your main area of expertise. The second thing I want you to think of your entire profile as a relatable story. I want for people to come to you because they relate to you. When we think of people that come to us, right, when we're on those consultations, so discovery calls, it's because they like, know, and trust us now, right? They're ready to move forward. And how are we going to get them to do that? The other side of my business, I do a lot of career coaching. And when people come to me, I have a specialization in toxic work culture, and they say they've talked to 10 people, but they read my story, and that is why they're going to move forward. It's very similar here. So when we're crafting this first person story on LinkedIn, I want you to think of, why is it that you practice the type of law that you do? There's probably a very specific reason, maybe something that happened in your life that caused you to advocate for a certain area. Maybe there's a reason that you have that passion. So I want you to break that down because clients can relate to your stories. We're always going to use first person. So thinking about our story, how did you get here and why do you continue to do what you do? Maybe it's not in the area that you started in, but what caused you to now practice a different area, right? Okay, and now let's take it outside for those of us who are not attorneys and we're reading your profile. Make us understand it a little bit more. Relate to us. Last thing is exactly what I said before, is like, know, and trust. After recrafting and optimizing your profile, do we feel confident that somebody would land there and like, know us, and trust us? Doesn't always have to be a client. It could be a colleague. It could be a referral partner. Do you feel strongly that somebody can relate? Okay, so before we get to the end with questions, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and actually show you these areas. Just to confirm, do we have until 8? Is that correct? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go on LinkedIn, show you some of these key areas that I talked about and what I want you to focus on. All right. All right, so I'm going to share my profile as an example. A few key things here that I want, that we went over tonight. First thing I want you to do is, if you do not have 500 connections, that is number one that you have to do. And we're going to be able to know how many we have here. Your followers will differ by your connections. After 500, I would say your connections are not irrelevant because they're part of your network, but followers will display. I get the question a lot of the time, well, what is the difference between a follower and a connection? When somebody connects with you, they'll automatically follow. But I'm going to show you how to turn creative mode on. And the purpose of that is right here. If you have creative mode turned on, you will see the topics that I speak about. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. These are not just what I do. I do a lot of LinkedIn training, I do culture consulting, and I do hiring. I change these out based on the seasonality of my business because this is what I'm talking about on LinkedIn. It's not just what I do. So think about, if you haven't created content, where is it, as a thought leader, where do you want to start to be known? What do you want people to automatically think of when they think of you? Not just what it is that you do in your business. Sometimes that takes a little bit of time to think about. If you already create content, go through your existing content and figure out, okay, where is the pattern of what it is that I'm speaking? For example, same attorney that I was speaking about before, because she does a lot of speaking, does she speak about women in law? Yes. But she speaks a lot about women empowerment, not just within law. So one of her hashtags in this area would be women empowerment. What we want people to do is, when they get to your profile, it is very likely that they're going to follow based on this alone. So they might land here. They could press the connect button, but they may just follow you because they want to receive the value that you're sharing. That's creative mode. When it comes to your profile, I want this to be where you've been featured, very clearly what it is that you do, an email and a call to action. These are logos of places I've been featured, my name, my email, right? I cannot rely on people to come down here. They very well may, but also if they're not connected, they land here in my email. And based on your browser, LinkedIn, if you could see this little box that appears, that was not always there. So depending on your browser, this can also pop up for your viewers. And then only one call to action. This could be referred as a call to action, and the purpose is that if you go to somebody else's profile beside your own, such as mine, there will be a bell here. The purpose of that is that if I go to that person's profile and I click on their bell, every single time that they post, I'm going to get a notification up here so that I never miss a post. It's the same on other social platforms, but this is my main call to action. What LinkedIn added this past year that could not be more powerful, it's something that's been missing for all the years I've been teaching LinkedIn, is this link right here. And if you have over 500 connections, you have access to it. This is really powerful. While I can potentially highlight over this and it'll bring up an email, I cannot click here. That may change eventually, but for now they added a link. There was never anything clickable here. So if I didn't capture my audience's attention here, I could not rely on them to come down here to the featured section. So now we can literally lead them off the profile without having them to scan. The way you do this is there's a pencil icon right here. We would click on this, come down to your custom button location, and you're able to edit it from there. The most important thing is when you enter a URL, we want to make sure that we add your call to action that matches up here. If we use different wording, it's going to be extremely confusing, or I see a lot of people just put their website link. I want to know that I can trust what you put there, that I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to get exactly what I'm told that I'm going to get. It's not just a generic link to the website. If you click here, you're going to be able to get a free consultation. It's very clear. Make sure that this is also oriented with what you want to do on LinkedIn specifically. I'm working with someone else right now that's a coach, but they want to use LinkedIn again for speaking. And so this is a link that says book me for speaking, even though she does several different things. So think about strategically where you want to pull in your leads on LinkedIn. On the LinkedIn app, there is a feature. It's like a little microphone. You can only record this on the app, and you have about 30 seconds to do it. If we click on it, I want you to introduce yourself and give a call to action. I'll play mine in a moment. I see so many people only utilize this for the pronunciation of their name, which you absolutely should, especially if it's something that's hard to pronounce. But how else are we utilizing this for someone to hear our voice and potentially relate to us before we even hop on a call?
Thanks for stopping by. I'm ready to be your brand networker, whether you're a job seeker or a business owner. Schedule a free consult below.
Really easy, super direct, not confusing. And I'm literally telling people to click here. So very, very direct. Again, it can only be done in the LinkedIn app at the moment. When I talked about your headlines here, this is what I mean. Coach, consultant, strategist, writer, specialist, right? So breaking it down, again, if you're an IP attorney, now let's break it down by areas of expertise. Who is it that you're working with? What areas of IP? Break those down with titles. If you're open to speaking, I always tell people to include that. Same with board membership. If you have a tagline that is recognizable in your business, maybe it's something that you always say, maybe it's something on your business cards. I have these notepads and there's something that I use for branding on here. Then I include it at the end. The reason for that is these two lines are really significant for how LinkedIn is people are finding you on LinkedIn. When the algorithm is run, it is searching for these key terms. That's why titles are important. We have a tagline at the end. So this is fine to still keep your tagline in because by this point, it's not putting as much emphasis on these keywords. But I want to make sure you have all the titles and areas of expertise and be specific so that the right clients are finding you. Moving down to city, I always tell people to make sure that we are using a greater area if you literally are not in a city. I used to live in Atlanta and it was Atlanta, Georgia, because I literally lived in the city and now I definitely live in New York City. But I grew up in Westchester. I would never put Westchester, New York on my profile. I would put greater New York City area because I don't want to limit myself to a search. I'll give you an example of New Jersey. People in Morristown, New Jersey always put Morristown, New Jersey. I don't know why, but they do. And that's hurting them because they are still in the greater New York City area. And I still message people from Morristown. I'm like, please put greater New York because it's limiting, right? We don't want to make sure that only those people can be found in that area. Even if they want to develop, right, a community in that area, that's fine. That can still be done in other ways. But you want to make sure to put greater area unless you are directly in that city. That's really important. The Google of everything on LinkedIn, I hear this all the time, is like, I don't know where it is. This add profile section is basically where you can find anything and everything that you want. We're going to get to recommendations later, and those are in this section as well. So if you're like, well, I don't know how to add a license. I don't know how to add education. How do I add an honor that I just got? How do I add my volunteer experience? This button right here will direct you to all those places. All right. Creator mode is under resources down here. This is really important for a few reasons. We talked about how it's going to increase your following. The second thing that it is going to increase is your invite to collaborative articles. This is something that LinkedIn just added this year. I'm part of the collaborative article team that's strategizing with them right now on how it can be improved. It's being improved weekly. They're listening. They're definitely making changes. I think there's a lot that can still be done, but it is a main focus on LinkedIn right now. It's huge, and I would definitely suggest getting involved. I'm going to be sending you an email in the morning, and that's going to include the direct link to collaborative articles. So nothing you have to worry about now, but that's going to take you to the place where you can easily find it, because that has not been the case in months past. But to be invited, you want to turn this on in the first place. When we click on it, you're going to have the option to turn it on. These can always be changed. Again, this is what I'm talking about on LinkedIn, but tomorrow it can be completely different about hiring. In January, new year, how are we preparing? Right in December, I'm actually going to be changing it to hiring because people are looking at budgeting. So this is not permanent. I think a lot of viewers on LinkedIn or users on LinkedIn get in the mindset of like, all right, I'm going to do the optimization and it needs to be final. LinkedIn's always changing. And so should our profiles be with the season of our business and what LinkedIn is focusing on. So these are going to be topics of what you talk about, like we talked about before, right? The 5 topics that show up on your profile. And when you start typing in each of these areas, it will pull up those topics. Once you have this turned on, you will be invited to participate in collaborative articles. But again, I'll be sending you that direct link tomorrow so that you can start engaging. The value of collaborative articles is LinkedIn's a reciprocation platform. So when it comes to content, they wanted to see, great, we have articles, we have newsletters, people are creating content, people are engaging with LinkedIn news, but how can we also make sure that they are leaving value, which improves our audience's knowledge, but it makes them show up as thought leaders in their industry. So when it comes to collaborative articles, we will have the opportunity when we click on our topics to leave something of value, right? So when you get that list tomorrow, finding 1 or 2 key areas that you can start contributing to, you'll be able to click directly into it and start contributing in those areas. What that will get you are LinkedIn community top voices. There's 2 types of voices on LinkedIn. A top voice, which is extremely hard to get. It's definitely available. You need to be, creating a lot of content. But there's now community top voices. This is huge for a consultation, for a speaking engagement, for trust. LinkedIn has to come to your profile and literally put this here. So when you're hopping on consultations or you're applying to speak or membership, whatever it may be, you can now say that you have been recognized as a top voice in this area. LinkedIn is the one who has control of it, and they can take it down at any point. Right now, I've asked LinkedIn to put top voices here for as many as we have, because if I click on this, I have 3, but only 1 shows up. So I'm sure that'll be a change coming in the future. LinkedIn does also not notify for about a week if you get this. So make sure to come to your profile and see if you have it, if you've been an active contributor. I would tell you to pick 1 topic to start when you get that list tomorrow. Pick 1, contribute weekly at least once or twice for about 30 days, and you very well likely may get it. You have this for 60 days once you receive it, but keep in mind, they can take it down. If you get this and you're like, great, I got my top badge and never going to contribute again, they will remove it. So you have 60 days once you have it to continue proving that you're going to be leaving value under that key category. So again, with creator mode, this is the purpose. Someone lands there, they can follow you, but it's very powerful to have a top career management voice. I think only about 2 or 4% of, at least the last time, it might be up a bit until about 5 right now, have this badge on their profile. All right, the featured area, I want you to think of this as your website, right? What are the links that you're currently directing traffic to? The first should be some type of consultation, application. How are people getting in touch? If somebody has scrolled to this area, they're ready to take action with you, right? They would have left up here. If they've gotten here, it's a hot lead. Make sure you get them to the next area. The second thing could be something that's going to get them a little bit more trust, something low cost, something maybe that will collect their email. It could be maybe a masterclass. It could be this webinar, right? Where are we going to direct more traffic? The third is something that's for a colder lead. It could be a podcast episode. That's a really good one if you've been featured somewhere. The second or third link could also be a video of you speaking if you want people to see that. So thinking about really hot lead, warmer lead, and colder lead of the direction. What do those people need to get, know, and like and trust you more? About section and experience should all be in first person. It should be something that people can read. So sometimes when I get to this area, it's something that LinkedIn has automatically crafted. I would not be using AI in these areas. They are not you, and they certainly don't know your story of why it is where it is that you are today. So I want you to think of, how can I tell my story here? When I talked before about telling your journey, this is where I want you to do it. This is the area that people want to see it, and we need to make it really clear. The other thing is there's no large paragraphs. People may not read this at all, and that's completely fine. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm including these key areas so that people can come here and know exactly what it is that I offer. I have some testimonials. You don't have to include that, but I include a few, and I have how to get in touch with me, right? So we're always making it really easy. We have email up here. We have a link here. Then I'm moving to this section. I have links, same links. Then I get down here and I'm not losing them. In case they missed it up there, I'm still capturing their attention and making it easy. The entire time you're crafting your profile, you have to think just like a website. Is this easy to use? Is there ever going to be a question of how to contact me or click on a resource? If so, we need to make it easier. Just like a website, they will simply go on to the next person, right? Same thing with your experience section. It's building this out to what is relevant to what it is that you do now. If something is not relevant, please take it off. I consider that clutter on a profile. Can't tell you how many profiles I still see with like lifeguard 20 years ago on people's profiles. Remove it. It's only clogging the profile and it's not helping you in any way. If, for example, I was in financial services and banking before I started my company, it's definitely relevant to the way I run my business now, but it is not relevant to my clients, for example. So I have removed those off of my page. Anything that gives you credibility, you want to make sure to leave. Anything that's not relevant anymore, we remove. All first person and built out, for example. Same thing. I consider this an extension of your about section. Whatever it is that you can fit in 2,600 characters, start to include it here. I always advocate for taking years off education. There's no reason that anyone needs to be sitting on your LinkedIn profile calculating your age in either direction, whether they view it positively or negatively. That's always my suggestion. Any licenses, certifications, again, credibility, social proof, right? This is our digital resume and profile. Moving down to the skills. These are 50. When we click on skills, there is this area here, about 3 ellipses, where we can click on it and reorder. The first thing you want to do is get to all 50 skills. That's automatic. But then come here and reorder only 3, not all 50. It will take you forever and it's not relevant. You only want to reorder your top 3. That's what's working with the algorithm to find what it is that you do. Just like everything else that we've talked about, things can be changed, right? So thinking about, where is your business in Q4? Maybe it's different from what people are looking for than in Q1. I hire for accounting firms, right? They're looking for different things right now, or have the tax season is in Q1, right? So we're going to change these up versus maybe what we have in Q4. All right. Organizations that you belong to. This is where I would say even the people that are the most optimized on LinkedIn, they are constantly missing this area, and it's really, really important. People that have 1 million followers on LinkedIn, many of them don't have recommendations, and it does impact how they are showing up on LinkedIn. So this takes a while, but I want you to start thinking about it as your process with clients, colleagues, those in your network, those you manage, those you are that are managing you, and getting to every single point that you work with a client, if it's public, that you can post this, or if it's a continuous client, then every 3 to 6 months, you ask for a recommendation in this area. Again, it doesn't always have to be a client or a manager. It could be somebody that you work with closely, but getting really strategic about, okay, I'm offboarding a client, or I just finished this project. I'm going to request a recommendation, which you do right here. The more that you have, this will definitely impact how you show up in search results. It's just like on a Friday when you're searching for that pizza restaurant and you're showing, those places that are showing are the ones with not only the most recommendations, but the most positive recommendations. So start to utilize this area. If you have never utilized this area in the past, this is where you are going to, oh, just clicked into one of my clients' websites. This is where you are going to find it, is this Google section, add profile section, recommended, add recommendations. That will be how you have to start your first recommendation if you have never done so in the past. I'm going to leave questions till the end. I want to get a little bit to content for 2024 and strategy. So I'm going to go to a few of my posts below and why they did really well. We can start with this one. Okay, so the first question I get is, when I'm reviewing my analytics, what's doing well and what's not, and how do I know if this post did well? I'd say this posted well. 10,500 people have viewed this post. Doesn't mean everyone liked and posted it. It does not mean that everybody reshared it, but this got a lot of traction, and there's a couple of reasons why. The first is I'm in the picture. People are looking at your content. It does not have to be you in a branding shoot. It does not have to be your headshot from a symposium today. People want to see you in action. I speak a lot on salary transparency because of the laws in New York right now. This was me on a panel, and I was speaking with other people that I could also tag in my post, right? So now who is following these people are now able to see my post. That's the first reason it did really well. I started a conversation. There are some people, I was talking about someone with this today, that they could have 250 likes here. They don't have any comments. This is important. This number really impacts this number. When we start a conversation, it's showing up in others' feeds more. And then 3 posts. Somebody felt strongly about this post that they went ahead and reshared it with their own network. The other reason this post did well is it's easy to scan. Somebody very well may not be reading all of this. They might, but I offered value. Here are 5 reasons why you should negotiate your offer. This is pretty much relevant to everybody. And so they're able to come here and leave with 5 tips. Going up to the top, when we go through a LinkedIn post, there's a see more button right here. You'll see it on the other posts. For example, see more. We'll get to that in a minute. I already clicked it, but it's usually right here. So when this appeared in my audience's feed, all they could see was this. And so I'll read it. In March 2017, I was discouraged by those who thought I had lost my mind. They didn't understand why it wasn't enough. I knew I was worth more, 10,000 more. I could have been talking about anything. I've been talking about a house, whatever it may be. They had no clue and they wanted to know, so I left them interested. Number 1. Number 2 is I put a date here. If you put a date on anything, people are naturally curious and they're just nosy, right? They want to know more. They want to know what was happening in March 2017 and in today's times, what was happening before the pandemic. What is it that she's going to tell us about? Great. Then I talk about how I negotiated my first offer to 10,000 more out of business school. I tag a few people. That's when I dive into my value. Somebody should never read a piece of content and not have a takeaway. It doesn't mean that there's 5 reasons or 5 steps you need to take. It should at least be inspirational, that people leave feeling better than they did before, or they have something strong that they can take away with them. This also did well because there are only 5 hashtags. You never want to post and include more than 5. LinkedIn will start to bury your post. The 2 worst things that you can do in a post, and I see a lot of people do it. First is there's a million hashtags. It could be because they have a social media manager and they're just copying and pasting it from Instagram. It could be they think that there will be more traction if they do that. The other thing I see is say this was all 1 paragraph and this is just all tagging everybody. That's not even relevant to the post. There's just 20 people tagged. I will tell you that I never even respond to those, even if I'm in the post. It's frankly really annoying for everybody's feed because they're not talked about. The people that are tagged here are in this photo. I'll give you another example. Date. On December 22nd, I came across 3 nearly identical suits in my childhood closet. It reminded me of the storage bin I found exactly 1 month earlier with the words corporate clothes across the top. This is relevant because they don't know what I'm going to talk about, but everybody was feeling this way, right? You can't tell me there's not 1 piece of clothing that you disposed of right before COVID that you're probably not wearing anymore. Same thing here. Then I dive into these corporate clothes had been my security for the past 3 years as I built my business. Security that I could go back. People have all felt this at some time. If they're not building a business, I was still able to relate to everybody. So I want you to think of your content as it shouldn't just relate to your ideal audience. The beginning at least has to relate to everybody so that everybody is going to read it. Why? Because we want people to comment, we want to start a conversation. And we can't just get to our ideal client. When everybody's in the conversation, then everyone's seeing it. So somebody could comment on here that I would never work with, but now their entire feed has access to this. Most of the clients I get from my posts, I'm not initially connected to. Other thing that's really important here is at the end of a post, we're always bringing it back to a community. We can talk about ourselves, we can talk about somebody else, but we want to make sure to bring it back to everybody on LinkedIn. What can we all do? And lastly, a call to action. I switch this up. Sometimes I tell people to follow me. Sometimes I start a conversation down here. So, for example, making sure that you are always, let me get you a good example here. This is a good one. Always ask a question or start a conversation that people are going to want to answer. I could not say in this post, tell me about a toxic work culture that you're currently in or have been in. Their bosses, right? Tell me about a really bad client that you recently had, right? Those people are on LinkedIn with us. So be cautious of what it is that you're asking. This was one, follow me for tips on salary negotiation. So I'm telling them what they're going to get as a result, and I'm tagging myself, made it easy. And now share your best salary negotiation tip in the comments. People really like this. There was a lot of response, and then all my viewers had all of these tips, right? So I left a piece of value. That's what LinkedIn is looking to do. That is what they're looking to promote. Creating content that's relatable to everyone and then making sure there is value. I know it's 7:52, so I want to leave some time. Would love to answer any questions. I'm going to share back to my presentation here. The other thing I would really suggest out of this too is setting a goal to accomplish by the end of this month or end of this year at this point. What is it that you can do? Maybe it's optimizing your profile, your branding by December. And then in December, creating your first piece of content. What is relevant in your industry right now? What's going on with the upcoming holidays, end of year? But would love to answer any questions. I will be emailing you guys a special offer. I don't really do this often, but I'm going to send it to you. And then there's also going to be a link to collaborative articles. So you will literally be able to click on that. It will bring you straight to collaborative articles, and then you can start contributing. A lot of people can't find it, so I hope that that's helpful. But I would love to take any questions. All my information is here. And I will keep sharing, but answer any questions that you have, if any.
Yeah, thank you very much, Erin. You busted a lot of myths that I had already. So I was making updates on my LinkedIn on my phone while we were recording the program.
There's a lot of myths out there.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. I was like, "Whoa, we're drinking from a fire hose." And
yeah.
So I would encourage everybody to go ahead and put your LinkedIn in the chat as well, and look for follow-ups from both Erin and myself. To get into in-depth conversations, because I do encourage people to bring general questions, but if you have personal questions and more confidential type stuff that you would like to talk about, please contact Erin or myself directly. So yeah, but please add in some. I've got to see Tracy popping her LinkedIn's in. So please do that while we have a few minutes we've got 5 minutes. So please go ahead and do that. Denise is asking how many hashtags?
So always 5 or under. I always say 3 to 5. 3 can work perfectly well. I would get specific. So don't always use the largest ones, right? Like I wouldn't use hashtag LinkedIn in a post. We want to think about if there's 5 million followers, then we're going to get buried. So it's fine to be specific. I talked about this with a client yesterday. They focus a lot on confidence coaching. And so instead of hashtag confidence, we could say confidence at work, because they consult corporations. If you are a lawyer, instead of just hashtag family law, maybe get a little bit more specific. We can use hashtag family law, but what specifically in family law are we talking about in that post?
All right. And let's see, you have your links on here, and we will be following up. And I'm gonna make an edit of the video before we post it on the LinkedIn, the YouTube channel, and then I'll send it out to everybody that registered for the meeting.
Awesome. And I think I didn't clear. Can you please explain why we should have 500 plus connections? So if you have less than 500, you'll never show up at the top of search results despite how optimized you are. So connecting with, anybody that would be relevant on LinkedIn. If you are in the middle of, I know we had one person that was job searching, I would start connecting with attorneys at relevant firms that you're interested in, people on LinkedIn that you look up to, that you're interested in their content. How to get comments versus impressions. What am I doing incorrectly? So that would be your call to action. So how are you starting a conversation? Likes are still important, but what are you asking at the end of that post that is going to leave value for everybody, but it's going to continue the conversation? The one other thing I would touch on is, if you are posting at 8:30 one morning and then you have back-to-back client calls for the next 2 hours, or you're going into trial and you can't comment back, that will significantly affect your results. So when you post, it doesn't mean you have to sit on LinkedIn for 2 hours, but be checking on it. That's why the app is so great, that we can leave and go on the subway, for instance, and still respond. But your response rate in those first 2 hours after a post will significantly impact it. So I see a lot of people like post, say, for example, I'm starting my own firm, and they create a post, and then there's obviously LinkedIn loves celebration. They love feeling of empowerment. And so they're promoting it, and there's all these likes. And then I see people liking what people left, like congrats, 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 when it would actually really help them to respond to that. When we're asking a question, for example, like share your best salary tip, and people are sharing it, we should then comment back and ask them another question so it keeps the conversation going in the comments. That will also significantly help your results.
Cool. Well, I think we're just about out of time for tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming again, and please follow us in the meetup group. We're also on LinkedIn, but then it links back to the meetup for registration. So either and or both. We probably will be on break for the holidays, and then coming back swinging in 2024 with monthly meetings again. Again, I'd love to thank our speaker, Erin, and be looking for follow-up as well as the replay of this program.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bonnie.